So I'm here today with Ezlyn Barends, the co-founder of the DreamGirls Academy. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Thomas, so much for having me.
What is the DreamGirls Academy?
So the DreamGirls Academy is a really dynamic organization that was founded by an awesome group of young Black South African female professionals. And the organization is really about shifting girls and young women from a space where they are economically dependent to connecting them to economic opportunity. And we do this through, education, employability, entrepreneurship, and a range of empowerment programs.
Okay. How did you come up with the idea?
Oh wow, what a journey it's been. And so I actually found that after high school I studied, I did what most young people do. And actually I didn't know what I wanted to study after high school. And my dad registered me for me to go and attend university, and off I went. And 3 months later I actually dropped out. And for the rest of that year I pretty much took a gap year. And luckily, my parents gave me the space to really discover the things that I'm passionate about. So it was just a year of discovery and so forth. Anyways, eventually I learned about the advertising world. I studied marketing and advertising. And I started working at the top advertising firm in South Africa at the time. And as I got into the role, after 3 years, I really stopped and I asked myself, I had a quarter-life crisis. And I asked myself, there must be more to life. Like, why will my life matter? And all of these big thought, life-provoking questions started coming up for me. And that really set me on a journey where I was traveling around the world, and it hit me that I'm the one person in my friendship group that's kind of I always have so much information to share with my friends in terms of bursaries, international study opportunities, mentorship programs, coaching programs, and so forth, because I myself have always been quite focused around personal development. Mm-hmm. And so I realized in that moment that that's actually my purpose, because it was something that came so natural to me that I completely overlooked it. And so along that journey, I thought, look, I'd love to call together, young women in my circle and see what we can do together to kind of pave the way for young girls in South Africa. It was also back in 2011, so that was a time where a lot of research was coming out around the importance of educating young girls. The World Bank, the UN, and all of them were coming out with the stats of showing how when you educate a girl child, how that links to an economy's growth and prosperity. Yeah. And so really with the back of all of these things, I looked at, okay, let me pull some of the women in my network together. And funny enough, they weren't necessarily my friends, but it was women that I had recognized something in, like, from high school, college, my first job, women who all shared this value of wanting to give back and make a difference. And I called them all together, and we literally had a tea party in my back garden. And we openly shared, our dreams for ourselves and the fact that we wanted to make a difference. And in the conversation, we all realized that we had progressed quite quickly in our careers because we got a helping hand in life. So whether that helping hand was a positive role model or a mentor or a scholarship, it was something that helped us get ahead. And so we wanted to give those same opportunities to young girls. And it was really on the back of that we started DreamGirls Academy back in 2011.
Wow. Okay, so, there are so many things that I could touch upon here, but the first thing that interests me is when you had this realization that your purpose was sharing this information and sharing opportunities with others, was that like in a split second, like an enlightenment moment, or was that over the course of some time that you developed that for yourself?
Yeah, it definitely was over time period, and the first thing, I have a lot of young people asking me, like, how do I discover my purpose? Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is that you've got to just lose yourself in different things, lose yourself in the things that interest you, and lose yourself in serving others. So for me, I did a lot of volunteer projects. I spent 3 months working in the Maluti Mountains in Lesotho, building a school with a missionary group. And at the time, I didn't know. I just thought, let me just try something new. Let me try something different. I spent some time with kids out in the Amazon, out in Brazil. And I just lost myself in projects where I was giving back and making a difference to others. And that was like a period over 6 months where I just got to travel, try different things, take on jobs that I wasn't getting paid for. And I think when you just kind of lose yourself in serving others, I ultimately believe that your purpose will always be in serving others or empowering others in some shape or form, and you can look at that from so many different angles, but ultimately it will always come down to being able to make a difference to somebody else's life.
Wow, I love that. And I love your share that you said, okay, I first have to kind of lose myself and just try out different things and just serve, before I can have that somewhat even egoistical thing of, okay, I want to know my purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I want to feel so fulfilled. So it's actually a journey to finding that out. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to sit here at home and hope that my journey finds me and only then can I start serving others.
Yeah.
The other way around.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're sitting with all your talented team in your backyard, tea party, and then what? Like, how did you start? Like, you all figured out, okay, someone has given you a helping hand to progress in your careers, to make something of yourselves. Then how did you launch the project?
Yeah. So the very next thing that we did, the next meeting was another meeting in my back garden, and this time we had a picnic blanket out, and we said, okay, let's craft out what does an ideal program look like to empower young girls, and we kind of mapped out what do girls need today. Our program is very geared towards the academics and the professional development, but as we developed that, we realized that these girls come from very, very challenging backgrounds and very challenging contexts. And so we have to include elements that's going to build their self-esteem, their self-belief, and their self-confidence. So whilst we developed this year-long program with the strong focus on professional development, we also added in, those very, very essential aspects that would help girls develop entrepreneurial thinking, that would help them develop their self-confidence and so forth. And then to actually get the program started, so I went to a school out in Yeovil, and it was started by a phenomenal woman. I mean, she literally, I think she came from Cape Town, and out of nothing, she started a school in the middle of Yeovil and built it up. I mean, she's been running that school now for 30 years. And her story I found was so fascinating that I thought, this school is the perfect school. She'll maybe connect with our purpose and what we're trying to do here, because we were very young and naive. We didn't actually know what we were doing. And so I went out to her and I said, look, we're young women, we've put together this program and we'd like to come and pilot it at your school with 30 young girls. And she was like, yeah, sure. So the next week we went in and we did a presentation to all of the girls from, I think it was grade 10 to grade 12. And we said, ladies, this is the program, this is how we're going to run it, but you need to apply to get in. We handed out application forms, the girls filled them in, we selected the top 30, and that's how we literally just, had the first step of starting that program. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how was it received? I mean, you came up with this one-year curriculum, so it's a lot of theory from your perspective. Yeah. How was it received by the students?
Wow, it was such an overwhelming response that we got. It just shows how young women and even young boys, it's something we're actually very passionate about, are screaming out for a program like this. And even this year, we did a study with some of our alumni, and we went around, doing focus groups and, getting information back from them. And, the one thing that every single person said in their interview was that everybody should have a DreamGirls Academy or be a part of something like DreamGirls Academy, which really shows the need for empowerment programs and organizations like this.
So you did your first program over the course of a year with 30 girls?
Yeah, we were 30 girls, and we were a group of 12 mentors and team members that actually facilitated this.
Okay. But you didn't do that full-time at the time, or did you already jump in full-time?
So the first 2 years, I actually ran DreamGirls full-time. That was what I was doing, because I actually founded DreamGirls under my family nonprofit organization that I was running at the time. So I was a full-on social entrepreneur. I was living with my parents. Before that, I was actually living on my own. I had to move back at home with my parents. And my family nonprofit organization was really the core funder of starting and establishing DreamGirls for the first 2 years.
Okay, so that's of course very helpful that you had a base to build on. And so I assume your family was really supporting you in taking that step.
100%. I mean, in fact, it actually was my dad that really initiated, starting an initiative like DreamGirls and so forth. So yeah, we've got a family. We are all in some shape or form involved in, education, empowerment programs and so forth.
Where does that come from in your family?
So actually, back in the days, if I track way back, my parents used to be teachers and youth leaders at their church, very involved in the community. So growing up, I mean, our house was always like filled with students, and whether they were getting tutored or getting advice or mentorship, it was just such a part of the way we were brought up, just giving back and using whatever knowledge that you have gained to pass it on to someone else.
Okay, so you run the first year. It's being received very well, apparently.
Yeah.
Then how do you scale something like that?
Yes, so very interesting. So when I started DreamGirls, I was very ambitious, and I said we're going to have a DreamGirls branch in every province in South Africa. And after our first year, in the very second year, we then opened up our branch in Limpopo, and we opened up our branch in Cape Town. How we were able to do that is that we actually used our networks of the founding team. So for example, I was from Cape Town, so I had networks and relationships down in Cape Town. Another one of our board members was from Polokwane, and she said, look, I'll take the lead on this one and you're getting it going. Having said that, it was a very, very challenging year for us, and we almost completely lost the entire program because at the end of the day, we were under-resourced. It was literally just passion fueling it. But as I mentioned, we were young and naive and forgot that, actually you do need money to run a program like this, and you do need committed mentors to deliver the same quality of program that you have started here in Johannesburg. So it was a real big learning year for us. And actually, the other thing that we did in our second year, we went from 30 girls per cohort to 40. So like we kind of actually doubled up and expand. So that's why it was so challenging, but it was a year that we learned so many lessons that actually helped us get our model, which today is very easily kind of replicable and scalable.
Okay, and what does that model look like?
Yeah, so for our core program, we run multiple programs, but for our flagship program, which is the one that we started off with, so in each cohort, we only take on 20 girls and 20 mentors, and they get in a one-on-one relationship. So each mentee will have their own mentor. Whereas, before we had one kind of servicing many. What we decided as a founding team very early on is that we were going to be an organization that goes deep versus going wide. So the numbers on our program are quite small, but we know every single girl by name. We keep in touch with all of our alumni. It's like, a very, very close sisterhood. And in that way, we literally able to support everyone as they progress, through university to landing their first job or starting their business. So we've intentionally, kept it quite, I guess in a way, a high touch. But that model today is what people, individuals and organizations are contacting us. And we've actually developed what we call the Dream Box, which is all of the tools, the techniques, the training, the materials, everything that you need to set up a DreamGirls in your country, in your city. And that we actually, working on the pilot now to actually start scaling through a social franchising model. Okay.
So if someone wanted to start a DreamGirls Academy in Ghana, how would you onboard them? How would that work?
Yes, so we're busy with the online platform for that. So it will be online. They can send us an inquiry, and basically there will be different packages. So from a light to a premium package, depending on the level of support that they need. So for a light package, they will be able to purchase an online toolbox online, which gives them the guidelines on how to get started, setting up something like this. For a premium package, as an example, you'll get all of the materials, and you'll get one of the founding members actually coaching you step by step to setting up an initiative like this.
Okay. So when you started out, because this now is really like a business model, did you always have in mind that it was going to become a social enterprise, or did you think more NGO, or did you not care and you just wanted to get this thing out?
Yeah, look, at the beginning, we simply just wanted to do good, you know, and that was it. But all of the founders of DreamGirls, we come from a business background, we come from corporate background. So even though it's not a money-making initiative, we run it like a business. I mean, even today, when some people come to our events, and we've gotten this response so many times, they're like so surprised. It's like, oh my goodness, this could have been a Standard Bank event or FNB event, because the quality of how we run our events and so forth, it just comes from our experience as well.
Ezlyn, I'm very curious, what, in your opinion, makes good mentoring? You know, because you cannot just say, or at least in my experience, you cannot just say, okay, I'll mentor you, and that does not necessarily guarantee that a young person or whoever is actually thriving. So what in your experience makes that, you know, that a young girl actually thrives in a mentorship?
Yeah. And you know what, I've actually been fortunate to have great mentors myself that I've also learned from along the way. And I think the first thing is to be able to give the mentee some guidance on how to actually have a transformational relationship with your mentor, because a mentoring relationship needs to be led by the mentee, right? So what I always say to mentees when we prepare them for this relationship is that when you go into a session, know what you want to get out of it. You know, go in with like 5-10 questions so that you can direct your mentor on what is the information that I want to, you know, pull out of you and gain from you. But also, as a mentor, your job is not to simply just give advice. Yes, you can share your experience, but I think what makes a great mentor is to ask them probing questions that will actually guide them to their own decisions. So using a bit of like coaching skills in your mentorship.
Okay, so I find that interesting. So you first coach the young girls on how to actually make their relationship with the mentor successful.
That is very important, because remember that a lot of these girls come from a space where they haven't even seen an empowered woman. Yeah. And you know, here this woman walks in and she's so confident and she's looking great. It's like, what do I even say to her? Do you know what I mean? So it's important that we kind of give them some tools to get started with. Yeah. And at the same breath, we do training with all of our mentors that come on board. Because for some of our mentors, it's the first time that they are interacting with someone that comes from such a different background or environment to them. So we always give them some training on, you know, maybe because it's for the first 2 times, maybe you need to lead the discussion a little bit more. And all of our workshops have a specific theme around that workshops. So the mentorship angle will be around that particular theme.
Okay, so for every year, you say for every batch there's a certain theme?
For every workshop that we run throughout the year. So every month we meet once a month, and so as an example, we do career development, we do entrepreneurship, we then do, you know, further study opportunities, we do leadership. So depending on the theme of that mentoring workshop for the day, their one-on-one session will also be targeted at that particular topic.
Now, you've been running for quite some time, and I'm curious, are the same mentors still with you, or do you constantly have to find new mentors, and then how do you select them?
Yes, so every year we do a call, a social media drive. We use our networks to recruit mentors, and they themselves have to go through an application process to get in, which is, by the way, a very, you know, rigorous process. And we've had ladies write to us before. They're like, your application form is just too hectic. It's almost like I'm signing up to go and do my MBA or something. But it's because we want a high quality of mentors and women who are really going to be committed for the year, because it is a big commitment. And so we put it out there, and they have to apply. Some years, many years, we have, you know, a few coming back, and they will be returning mentors. Some of them will take a break for like 2 years, and then they'll come back. But every year we do a social media drive just to recruit new mentors.
Okay. So what does the commitment for the mentor exactly look like?
Yes. So for the mentors, and when they come on board, the first thing that we ask is for, I think it's like 90% attendance of all of our workshops.
Okay.
So we have the dates up front, and we ask that the mentors are there all the time, because as I mentioned, the girls are matched one-on-one. And we want to ensure that we give them a standard experience, and that they have someone that's focused on giving them individual attention.
Yeah.
So the first thing that they have to commit to is one full Saturday a month. So that's from 9 to about 3 or 4 we run that. They've got to be there. And to sit in on the speakers and all the workshop activities we have. And then our mentorship session always ends with 1 hour when they do one-on-one mentoring time.
Okay, that means so every month you have the workshop where the mentors and the girls
come together.
Okay.
Everybody comes together. We bring in speakers, we bring in facilitators. So it's a full-on workshop around a particular theme. So that's the biggest commitment. And then over and above that, we just ask them to support them with access to information. We've got so many WhatsApp groups going on. So whenever someone hears about internships, international opportunities, we've actually had some of our mentees attend their first international, like leadership conference and UN modeling conferences and so forth. So sharing those opportunities with the girls.
That sounds exciting. Let's talk a little bit about fundraising.
Yes.
Because yes, you have the business model now lined out, especially for further growth and social franchising, as you mentioned. But how did you transition from being this kind of family-funded project or family foundation-funded project to something that continues thriving?
Yes. So to talk you through our funding journey. So the first 2 years we were funded by my family nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. Also, as a founding committee, we used to put money aside every month. So we would contribute 200 to 500 rand each, and that would be like a little petty cash just for small things, in our first year. And then towards the end of our second year, we got our first CSI funding, and it actually came from SAP. Mm-hmm. And they gave us our first funding, and we kind of ran it like that. We also got a lot of in-kind donations. So, for example, corporates who said, yes, you could use our venue, and or contribute catering and so forth. So the first 3-4 years was pretty much like people chipping in, and we tapping into our networks and so forth. Our real big break came in, I think it was the beginning of 2017. And when we became a beneficiary trust to one of the corporates that's involved with us, and they gave us, our first big donation. And I mean, this was I think that's year 5 of us operating. Yeah. And what that allowed us to do was to really start initiating all the new projects that we wanted to do, to start reinvesting back into the alumni, and so forth. And then also then corporates started to contact us, and they were like, we want to run a mentorship program, but we don't know how. Can we pay you guys to do it? Mm-hmm. So then we started seeing DreamGirls as a service, where we went into corporates and we would run their mentorship programs for them, or we will run a DreamGirls in-house to that corporate. So that's how we started now, making money over and above the donations and funding that we got. And then really from 2018, just through our networks, we started, applying for bigger grants. We've been privileged to work with such great partners. So we applied for grants, we do fundraising, and now I think our funding is targeted at how do we set up those channels that's going to create an income stream for us so that we are financially sustainable. And hence, the social franchising part is one arm that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a phenomenal journey. What did your personal journey look like during that time? Because you said you worked full-time for the first 2 years. Then what was going on in your mind with this baby that you had started? The second year you shared was very tough, breakneck growth almost. And then what after that for you?
Yeah, the journey of founding and growing DreamGirls has been such a powerfully transformative journey for myself as a person. And I think, all entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs will say that, So the first 2 years I was running DreamGirls full-time, I was so passionate about what we were doing that I was working around the clock and so forth. And in my second year, I had a bit of a burnout session. Like I literally I couldn't get up. And And it turned out that I was actually burnt out. And so I used that opportunity to look at how do I shift the way that I'm doing things. How do I still make the impact that I want to do, but also looking after my wellness? And while I was on that path, I got a wonderful opportunity to go and do my MBA in the UK. And so I spoke to my founding team, and I said, guys, this great opportunity has come up for me. If I leave, will you be able to take the lead and still run this? Because my biggest fear at that time was that, look, we probably just have to shut it down now, Because at the time I was really putting my all into kind of leading and growing it. And my team was so supportive, and they're like, yes, of course, yeah, we'll grow it, we'll build it, and so forth. And really with their support, I was able to take a year out of my life here. I went over to the UK, I studied, but it was also a year for me to just breathe, actually, after 2 years of kind of working around the clock. And in that time, my co-founders, they literally just kept the standard high and kept on building it and so forth. And then coming back to South Africa, I came back. I now had an MBA, but I was also broke because I had like student debt and so forth. And so I thought, look, to just get myself back, stabilize again, let me go into a corporate, because that is actually really where MBA is valued, and where I'll get my value back, quickly. Yeah. And so I looked into corporate opportunities, and while I was studying, I really focused my studies on technology and information systems and so forth. And so I was very excited when Microsoft actually contacted me, and they wanted to bring me on board. And it was particularly so exciting because I had applied for so many jobs, and everybody was like, your experience is too all over the show, there's no consistency, you're doing too many things. And when I got recruited for a role, they were specifically looking for someone who had this diverse experience, who was exposed to different worlds. And so, yeah, I got a really, really great opportunity there, and spent 3 amazing years working there. And after 3 years, we realized that DreamGirls needed to make a shift, and we were looking for I think a year. We were looking for a CEO type of person that could really execute the new plans that we had for DreamGirls, because now, remember, we got our first, real amount of funding. So we had, the financial bandwidth to start growing. And we just couldn't find, someone who had the combination of passion, strategic vision, business acumen. And so at that point, I also decided with my co-founders that I will jump out of corporate, and I'll take some time out to kind of build DreamGirls up, get it to its next level kind of thing. So I spent the last year and a half kind of doing that, and in the space of this past year, we've launched many new programs, we've pivoted our business model, and we've also taken on more of a focus around preparing girls for the technology and innovation space, simply because technology is going to touch every job out there, every industry out there, and we need to prepare our girls so that they are competitive and relevant in the future.
I love that, and I really like your story, because it's not just, okay, I'm doing this for 20 years, but it also shows that there can be flexibility with the right partners on board, and apparently with the right founding team.
Yes.
What are the new programs that you came up with?
Yes, so at the beginning of this year, we launched what we call the Dreamcode Bootcamp. And we actually piloted that project this year. So we took a group of 30 unemployed young women. They didn't need to have any type of tertiary qualification. They just need to have a basic high school diploma. And if they were unemployed, we kind of took them on. They also had to apply to get onto the program. And we put them through a 1-month intense digital skills, coding, and workplace readiness program. They got taught how to create their own websites, mobile apps, got taught about all of the digital skills, social media management, and so forth that you need in today's day and age. And thereafter, we then kind of connected them with our network so that they could actually land jobs. Mm-hmm. And that was quite a successful program, because after that, we've got girls who were literally doing nothing but sitting at home on the couch, who are now Google facilitators, working at Microsoft, Oracle, tech startups. So that was one of the programs. And then the other one that we started, which is also a very exciting one, is a year-long program for inspiring and early stage female entrepreneurs, those in the tech space or in the creative space. So there we've actually partnered with the US Embassy. And it's a year-long program where they get taught on all the components of starting and running a business. So marketing, finance, HR, and everything. And by the end of this program, which will be in May next year, they will have a business plan, which they will then pitch to investors. And really the aim is to get them, started and growing their businesses. So we've done that, and then we've done ad hoc projects as well around digital skills and coding.
Okay, wow. I mean, it's very impressive that after a month of teaching tech skills, you can place this entire cohort into amazing jobs. So.
Yeah, you know what? It did different things for the different candidates. For some of them, it unlocked an interest in the digital world. So some of them actually decided, I've never ever considered, coding before. I'm going to go and study it now. Yeah. For others who were a little bit more advanced, and just to share a story, so one of the girls, who was probably one of the more qualified girls in the class, she had a undergraduate degree in civil engineering, and she had done some internships in the mining sector. And after being put through our digital program, she then decided that digital mining is, the area that she wants to go. So it's about, pulling on, different things that you learn to actually create new spaces for yourself.
So it's really giving the first exposure, the first insight, so that you can then continue building yourself.
Yeah.
Now, you came back from Microsoft because you were at a place where you saw, this project needed a transformation, needed to pivot in certain areas. Now you just landed a new job. How did you make that decision, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so like I said, I took out some time to start and start these new projects and kind of build DreamGirls to its new level. And I was just kind of doing my business when I got approached for a role, specifically working with other nonprofits, helping them to, use technology more effectively and helping them to make it core to their business so that they're able to increase their impact and their reach, which is something that even us as DreamGirls we're going through, because we, as I mentioned to you earlier, our programs are very targeted, but with technology and the new model that we want to come about now, we can use that to really get it out to more girls.
Yeah. So the new strategy of scaling, essentially.
Yeah.
I have one question. Personally, I would describe myself as a dreamer in many regards. And yet, mentoring young people, just a question arose for me, could it also be sometimes be detrimental, to awaken this dreaming big in young people, when the environment might not actually let them fulfill that? Could that lead to, distrust? Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, and it's a hard lesson that I've had to learn, because I'm also an eternal optimist and an idealist, but sometimes in the real world, things don't always just kind of work out, based on that. And I've learned that on my journey. So and it's funny enough, because we just had this conversation with the mentee yesterday. We were looking at, does she pursue a passion, or does she pursue something that's just going to help her, get a proper foundation, help her support her family and so forth. And the reality is that sometimes you've got to do the things that you don't want to at first in order to create an environment and a space for you to later then do the things that you do want to. And that is something that my dad always told me. He's like, listen, sacrifice the little things right now, get the basics and the foundation in place, and that way you have a better footing on which to springboard off. So while it is important to ignite dreams in young people and get them to work on it, it is also important to do it in a responsible manner and to say, look, what are your basic needs right now? A roof over my head, food in my tummy, and the things that are actually going to nourish you and set you up to be able to even dream and do those things that you want to do.
That allow you to have the energy to then build your dream.
Exactly.
What has been your biggest learning on this entire journey?
Oh wow! So many learnings, but I think when I look at my co-founders, and they have been, and as I mentioned to you, they weren't necessarily my friends when we started, but over this process of 8 years, we have become sisters. You know, because the way we are mirrors to each other, and the way we've been able to, give feedback without breaking each other down, so that we're constantly building ourselves up. Like I've learned through them, I've learned to be a better team member, a better leader, because I'm constantly working on myself. If I look at the way I used to lead or contribute to a team 8 years ago versus now, it's completely different. So I always say to young people that it's so important that you surround yourself with people who are going to build you. And it's not like it's always nice and we, being girly. We've had some tough conversations with each other, and you said, listen, you're not pulling your weight up here, or I don't like the way you address that. Being able to have candid conversations, but coming from a place of love, coming from a place where you want to build someone up. It's so important that if you're going to choose business partners or team members or anybody to start a journey with, that you do it with people who have the right intentions.
Who is building DreamGirls Academy now that you are back at a new challenge?
Yes. So we've always kind of run DreamGirls on the side, and luckily because over the years we've built up our teams in each city and our Exco team and so forth. But it really is one of my other founding directors who's been an entrepreneur all of her life. Who's really been core at also building DreamGirls and running it, from a day-to-day operational perspective. We also have an intern who was actually one of our mentees from our very first year when we started DreamGirls.
Oh, wow.
Who's come through a number of programs of us, and now she's working for us. And that's actually our vision for DreamGirls, is really to start identifying, the talent in our girls that we can now train and mentor to take over and run DreamGirls, because we always said it needs to be an organization that needs to be run by young women, and we're not getting any younger. So we need to kind of, mentor the new cohort of young women to actually take over and continue to build it.
My final question would be, what would be your advice to young South African girls today?
Wow, I think there's so much, but I think it's so important that you actively invest in building your self-esteem and building your self-confidence, because that is everything, and it's a game changer. I can actively see what it does for someone when they truly believe in themselves at the core, and when they don't. And the reason why I say that they need to do this actively is because a lot of people come from homes where they were never positively affirmed. They were never said, you can go out into the world and do everything. So automatically growing up with fear and so forth, which most people do, right? But you can overcome that by actively investing. Read up on it. How do I build my self-confidence? How do I find the right mentors or coaches that's going to invest in my development? Take on difficult things, because that's going to build your confidence. So it needs to kind of almost be a strategy on its own. Personal development is so core to who you are that when you get that right, everything else starts flowing more smoothly.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Cool. Thank you.